slides and some other further resources we knew before, but something not so pleasant happened in the sense that my phone just kind of backed up and refused to work. And because of that, I could not do anything on my phone. I could not, fix my phone. I could not get a new one for a while until I literally just got, another one. And then I think I know I myself just got talking. Myself and Madame Falakemi just got talking yesterday or today as well. So just right in time for this. So my apologies. I've put everything into a folder. I'll share them with Anu immediately after this, so she can share with you, or which also include like the slides for that I'm going to use for today. Today, as it's just going to be more about having a conversation, talking about today's going to be about systems thinking. Um, just permit me. It's giving me a bit of difficulty sharing this. I don't know why, but um, um, you know what will happen, yeah. I'm just going to leave and then try to reconnect from a platform from the app because I'm connecting from the web at the moment, and let me see if it's going to be different if I'm connecting from the app. But generally, why I'm trying to sort that out, I'm keen to hear from from at least two people how your experience of the fellowship have been so far. Anyone wants to unmute the mic and just like share with me how the experience on the in the fellowship have been so far. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm just asking. I don't want to just point anyone or anyone. So that's asking if anyone can like volunteer to talk about like their experiences in the fellowship so far.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Good
you.
evening, everyone.
We can hear you.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, all right. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so my experience in how my experience has been with the fellowship has been a fantastic one. Um, we had different sessions. There were different sessions, different trainings, that were they were eye opener for me. The last one we had on Thursday, talking about the strategic and goal setting. It was a full one. And then there were a whole lot of discussions and conversations, around you know um, around how to set goals strategically around projects, and all of that. And then the project management session too was good, and then the other session about digital marketing, how to actually how to put our content, how to create content, how to put our content across social medias, how to use AI. Fantastic, for me and for my organization. So for me, it was an opportunity for me to unlearn, to relearn, and then to actually be able to harness more information, harness more information, and then also networking, with amazing minds. My group has been an amazing, amazing minds, and then also and also the coordination of the fellowship, itself with Anu and with Folakemi, and then the other team members has been, fantastic. The coordination has been beautiful. So for me, it has been a full ride, but not just a full ride. It has been an amazing time, for me, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that I'm happy that I am here, that I get to meet, everyone. I get to meet, even the facilitators. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's a beautiful experience for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Someone else wants to go and share the experience. Hello, it'll be great to hear someone else share their experience.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Isaac.
Okay, thank you. Well, when we started, my expectation was so high, and I was like, I'm desperate to learn a new thing. Because most of the time, all of us, we are executive director, I think we know everything all, we know it all. That kind of thing is there. But most of the time, I want to learn and I want to see someone speaking just to learn. I want to grasp new things. And so that was the major priority, my motivation coming to this fellowship is I want to learn. Is there new thing? Is there something that I don't know? Even as the title is, I want to learn something. And coming on board, I've learned so many things. I've learned from the facilitator right from the onset to today. I've learned so many things, and which I believe I'm going to really integrate into my operation, my organization work. And one other thing that I think I learned, I love networking before, and it's something that I am used to. I love networking. And so coming to have that again is a flaw. But one other thing I want to say is that of the coordination of this fellowship. And kudos to the organizer, it's perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for your amazing feedback. On this, it's good to hear about all of it's good to hear about all of this and how it shapes the work that you're doing. And I'm happy as well that this has been very, very helpful for you. And I know this is also like a testament to the amazing work that you and the team have put into this. And everyone talked about the impressive coordination that this has had. So I think that boils down to you and the amazing work that you've put into this as well. So you should beat your chest and be very, very proud of the work that you've done up until this moment to get this to where it is at the moment. So today we're generally going to be talking about systems thinking, and one of the things I kind of want to do is to be able to challenge us all, to start thinking, how does things work? How do we make things work? Are things just on their own or they're part of a wider system? Or can we solve problems by isolating them? For COVID, you're like, oh, you isolate the issues, you isolate the people. Or can we solve things by looking at them from a holistic and from a systemic point of view? Yeah. So that's one of the things that I want to like share and discuss with you. And today is going to be very, very short. As you can see, we're probably like 19 minutes gone into the day. So because it's going to be very short, try to be direct as possible, and where possible, take as many questions as possible as well for everyone. But before I start, can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, sure.
Okay, perfect. And I also think as well, I've been able to figure out this tech thing, this thing about sharing. So let me know if you can also see my screen.
Okay.
Share, 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 share. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
And now?
No, it's saying double. Okay, good. We can see System Thinking 2025 Starling Fellowship Nigeria. Daniel Nwaeze.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So today is, you know, um, talking about systems thinking. How do we look at things from a systems thinking approach? Um, how do we look at it? How do things happen? Do things happen in silos? How can we apply this in our organizations? What can we do as young leaders to, to approach this? How can we get things going, in our different organizations using a systems thinking approach? So there's going to be a bit of like, how do I put, there's going to be a bit of like theoretical aspects, a lot of theoretical talking, but what I'm also going to try to do as well is to talk about some other practical ways that this has worked. Yeah, it's talk about like practical ways that this has worked, and how what I've seen work, how that has been applied, what can we do, what can we do in in everything that we do, and how can we get things going. So So in the first part of it, how can you work, collaboratively using systems thinking approach? Not just you working individually, but you working, as part of a group. How do you connect the dots? How do you connect things and issues together? How do you get things rolling and how do you get things moving? So when you want to look at, what's system thinking, holistically. You look at it according to Peter, you look at it as a way of solving problem which takes into account the overall system as well as its individual parts. It's a framework for seeing interrelationships rather than seeing just individual things, and then for seeing patterns rather than seeing static snapshots. So what this is, when you look at a problem, what are the things that what are the what are the issues that get to this problem, and then also how are the multiple ways that we can solve this problem. If you remember when we were talking about last week, or when we were talking about distributed leadership, and I can't remember what was the other conversation we had last week. I talked about not being so focused as to one way problem, one way solution. What are the multiple things that would have caused this thing, and then how are the multiple ways that we can solve this problem? Because you know when you look at them, when you solve the underlying factors about a problem, you've also solved that problem. When you think about trying to solve a problem, a lot of the times, a lot of the problems that we try to solve, those short-term solutions kind of become long-term problems. Those short-term solutions kind of become long-term problems for us, in the things that we do. And that's why, some of the advocate for cutting aid across the world, which is like the big topic now, which is like the big major topic, between when we spoke the last time and now. They'll say, oh, we've been digging wells in Africa for so many years, yet Africa still has a water crisis. We've been sending money to Africa for so many years, billions and billions of dollars. Yes, yet Africa is still poor. Oh, we've been providing economic empowerment for years and years, yet Africa is still poor. Why is that so? Oh, we've been providing health support, health assistance, yet Africa is still very sick, and still malnourished and still this and still that. The healthcare systems are still very, very bad. Why is that? Because, our leaders have not come to bring into like, two different kind of thinking. One is the design thinking perspective and the other is the systems thinking approach or systems thinking perspective into how do we look at multiple things at the same time and start factoring in the issues that what are causing these things, what are the problems, and how do we look at it as part of a system, not in isolation, as well. And that's one of the things that we've not been able to get right. And also, one of the key projects I'm working on at the moment is how do we begin to get young leaders as yourself and as myself to begin to see things from a very holistic perspective, and how do we begin to solve them? Either looking at the relational perspective of solving them, or looking at it from like the wider holistic approach in solving these issues. So, I wanted to create a distinction between like what conventional thinking is and what systems thinking actually is. So, for example, for conventional thinking, you're just thinking about problems and causes that are obviously connected to it. So, for example, this is the problem. This is what your eyes can see. This is obvious. This is what's causing this problem. For conventional thinking, nobody wants to be blamed for whatever the problem is. The problem is always the other person. The problem is always the community. The problem is always the government. The problem is always this. Nobody ever take responsibility for them being the problem. And then short-term success lists, people think that when you do short-term things, it leads to long-term success. But in reality, when you go for the short-term win, most of the times these things are not very, very long. These things are not very, very long um lasting. And then people try to like, oh, if we fix this little one, then the whole thing will solve. But in fixing the little ones, in fixing this part or that part, or this isolation or that isolation, a lot of other things keep getting worse. I give an example. COVID-19, for example, of all the isolation that we did COVID-19 still got so much worse. It affected so much people, because there are not very, very strong systems in place. Um, and as well, do as much as you can, as quickly as you can, quickly, like, let's do this, in 2 weeks. Oh, we got the grant for 2 years. We have to do this thing in 2 years. Or the grant just says we have to only spend 2 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 weeks, or implement within 3 months. So we have to do this thing, quickly, 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 let's get it done, and get out. Meanwhile, for systems thinking, you're looking at, you know, yes, this is a problem. Yeah, this is what I think are these causes, but they may not be directly correlated to it. There may be like there's maybe some other things that are influencing it. So I'll give an example. You know, I think I made that example as well the last time we spoke. If you're a climate activist, for example, and then you keep going to a community and planting trees that have no economic benefit to the community. And every time you come back, they've uprooted the trees, or the goats have eaten the trees, and nobody's taking care of the trees. And you keep saying, oh, this is a problem. It's keep on, the villagers are removing the trees. It's directly connected. It's the villagers, that are removing the trees, or allowing the goats to remove the trees, and not taking care of it. Meanwhile, from a systems thinking approach, you look at it and say, wait, why are these people removing this tree? Okay, there may be something else. Oh, they don't have money. Oh, the tree is not bringing them food. The tree is not offering them any socioeconomic value. Okay, how do I offer socioeconomic value at the same time providing a safe and clean environment for them, and providing a healthy environment for them? Then you now start thinking about, what if I bring a palm tree, for example, and the palm tree is multitasking. The fruits, you can eat the fruits, you can make oil from the fruit, you can make broom from from the stem, you can make basket or broom from the stem and sell. You can use the entire leaf as a roof, as roofing for your house, or for a very small, it's very, very multitasking. Like, there's so many things that you can use the palm tree for example. What if I invest in that? It takes maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years for palm trees to start becoming very, very fruitful, or start, showing signs and bringing out all of those branches. It's a long-term fix, but in the end, the villagers know that they're going to benefit from this. The second is also like seeing ourselves also as part of the problem. Even though we're trying to provide solutions, we are also within that whole system of this problem, in the sense that if we don't get it right, we make the matters worse. Or if we just focus on short-term successes, then we're setting these people up for long-term challenges or long-term issues, because we'll not be there when they're facing these issues and challenges. So what that means, even when we're not there, when the actual issues are showing up because of our actions, we may not be there, but we created the very foundations for those problems, but we created new foundations for these new problems that these people are having, even though it's an unintended consequences, but those consequences were created by us. Another way is that, most quick fixes, they yield no difference or make matters worse over time. I think I mentioned it, previously, is that most time we focus so much on quick fix, quick fix, quick fix, get the problem, let's fix this problem, let tomorrow people worry about tomorrow. But in actual reality, in the long term, this becomes a problem. We just want to do a quick fix, so that we can take pictures, these very nice pictures and these very fancy pictures, and then we can use it in our report, for our partners, for our donors. And then you come back 2 months later, all of those things are damaged, they are gone, or they are falling off, or they are peeling and they're peeling off and things like that. And then you also look at, improve relationships among the parts. You're not looking at things, you're not treating them in isolation and trying to optimize them in a state, but you're trying to look at what are the relationships between all of this and how can I improve, how can I improve those relationships between these things and more. And then finally, focusing on key coordinated changes over time. So you now start studying a pattern, I've done this. So by doing this is the result. By connecting A and B, this is the result. By connecting D with F, this is the result. By connecting A, B, C, and D, this is the result. So you start understanding those patterns and those coordination, and then you start experimenting and improving and optimizing. And then you now start seeing, the result happen over time. Not really fast, not really immediate, but what you start seeing is you start beginning to see the progress and you start beginning to see the results coming into effect. So what are systems? I remember back then in our political science days, when you're using the systems theory in political science, you have the environment, you have the government, you have the people, you have the decision making, direction, and how the decision, from the government to the people and the people back to the government, from the people through elections to the government and the government through policies to the people. And there's this whole framework of the government and the people and the entire political system existing within a framework. So for systems thinking, you're looking at what are the systems that exist for people. On one part is are the social systems, the social systems, the cultural systems, the religious systems, the things that people believe in that form their everyday of life. On the other side is the economic system, the things that they earn money from or that they earn a living from or that they make a living from. It's how they earn money, how they survive, how they live. And then the natural systems or the ecological systems, which a lot of times not within their control. So, for example, because they are born, the fact that someone is born in a particular community or in a particular locality automatically subjects them to those natural environment or those natural systems. So, if you're born in Canada, for example, in the far north of Canada, you're automatically in that natural system of heavy snow, heavy weather, and things. Or let's not leave Canada. Let's say Nigeria, for example. If you're born in like Sokoto, for example, you're automatically subjected to the natural environment of those hot sun, cold weather sometimes, the sandstorms and things like that. Meanwhile, if you're born in somewhere like Lagos, you're used to like the noise pollution, you're used to like the systems in Lagos and how things work in Lagos. You're used to things like that because that's where you were born or that's where you find yourself. So these are like the natural systems. There's the Atlantic, on the Lagos side, there's the desert on the other side in the far, in the far north. So these are natural systems that people have little or no control about. But how do we ensure that these natural systems also work in our favor? These systems kind of also help us. Economic systems as well. It's within people's control, but most times is what kind of access or opportunities do they have? Someone who works in a bank, for example, earns more money than someone who just has a kiosk selling biscuits and sweet or selling food, you know, or someone that works in a very senior government position, So these are like people have different economic systems, they earn different amount of money. Nigeria has a very, 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 like Nigeria has a dwindling middle class. And one of the things signs that show a very strong economy is the strength of the middle class. And I think we have a very our middle class have been shrinking probably over the last 8 years and stuff. Social systems, we're all Nigerians here. Nigeria has very strong social systems, we hold family very dearly. We hold our religions, whether we are Muslims or Christians or even traditionalists, we hold our religion very, very dearly. In fact, Nigerians don't even joke with their religion. They can joke with their, where they earn money, but they don't joke with their, with their religions. So these are the things that you should also factor in when you're planning stuff, when you're doing stuff. So that it also kind of helps you to be kind of emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware of your environment, and know the kind of solutions, that you bring in, or the kind of things that you propose, or you as an organization working in a particular environment you find yourself in. Let's say if you're working in Sokoto, for example, the way you approach the communities you work with and the people you work with will be different if you're working in Lagos, or if you're working in Imo State, or if you're working in Ogun State or Plateau State, because these are the systems where you find yourself in, and how do you work, within those systems? How do you connect them to ensure that you're getting the right results, you're getting the right impact, or you're passing the right impact that you want to pass in the communities that you're working in, or that you're living in. So for the interconnectedness of the systems, yeah, like like as I was trying to explain in the previous one, when you look at the social system, for example, you can also now say, okay, what connects the social system with with the ecological system or with the natural system, because they're from there, what did they do? So, for example, religion, for example, for people who are born in riverine areas, for example, you see a lot of them worshiping the goddess of the water, or have some traditions that align with the water, or have some rites that align, with the water. Meanwhile, for someone that is born, for example, somewhere close to the mountains or thick forest, you see them have traditions like where they respect some animals, where they worship some animals, where they worship a particular tree, or see a particular tree as sacred, or the way they cure illnesses or pains will be different because of the kind of trees they find in their area that they can use to make all of those things. So you're now start looking at, what is this interconnectedness between these very different systems that people find themselves in? We know the three main one, which is the social system, the economic system, the ecological system, or the natural system. But what are now this interconnectedness? The same way as well with the economic system and the natural system. Someone who lives in the riverine area, you see a lot of fishermen because of the riverine area. Meanwhile, if you compare that to if you live like in Lagos, for example, a lot of people are business people or office people or governmental people. Or if you go down to Plateau or to the north, a lot of them are farmers, because that's the linkage between the natural environment they find themselves and the economic system that they're able to build um for themselves. And the same way as well, if you go to different places, if you go to areas that are very rich in natural resources, you see that people tend to be miners. People tend to be miners, in those places, because that's the natural place where they find themselves. That's the natural system they find themselves in, and that's like using that system to derive economic value for themselves. And then we can even begin to like blend the economic system together with the social system. You can blend the natural system together with the economic system, or together with the social system. So in all of this, the aim that we want to achieve is a very balanced development. It's a very sustainable development. It's a very sustainable impact, or a balanced impact. And that's why like system thinking is very, very key. And one of the things I'm very, very pleased with the team at Starling Fellowship is that, and maybe also very symbolic, that systems thinking is like the last session that you're having is now all of these things that you've learned, from digital marketing, from community engagement, to different forms of improving the work that you do. At the end of this fellowship is now you're going back to your drawing board and now saying, all of these things exist in this different system. How do I now begin to relate them in the systems that I find myself in, and optimizing and improving the system so that the main beneficiaries, which are like the communities that I serve, or the people that I serve, or the people that I want to impact, they get better value for my presence in their communities, or for my engagement with their communities. So in doing this, what do you now need as a systems thinker? what do you now, how do you now begin to look at things? You know, originally you look at things that, oh, they're disconnected. But as a system thinker, you now start saying, no, I don't think this is disconnected. I think these things are interconnected. How do I find those interconnections? How do I now begin to connect the dots? When they begin to connect the dots, you now start beginning to see a pattern. You now start beginning to see you now start beginning to see, okay, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. So this is how A connects to B. So this is how B connects to C. This is how, they overlap with each other, or they encompass each other. Then you now go from having this linear thinking to having a circular thinking, to now saying, oh, even though I may have achieved this result, it is not the end. How do I go back and learn again and continue the cycle to ensure that I keep factoring in any issue that may happen, or I keep getting better and improving. Or, then again, is as a systems thinker, or one of the tools you now begin to say to yourself is, you no longer see things as compartmentalized or being in silos. You start seeing them as being a whole, one big, being part of a one big whole. How do you now begin to see that all of these things exist, inside this bracket, inside this space? And then how do I begin to now take all of these parts, these different parts, and then fixing them together to now, create a square box into a square hole, and ensuring that I'm beginning to get the things that I want to do get done. Then you now start beginning to ask, okay, now that I've done this, how do I begin to now like sit down and start understanding I'm understanding the very detail, which is I'm analyzing the very, very details. But two again is looking at them also from a very, very broad perspective. In its own isolation, what is this thing? But in comparison to like the other problems, how does this fit in? What is the square play? What are the relationships that happen? So the relationship is not what is the relationship between all of them. No, it's not just that. It's what's the relationship between A and B? What's the relationship between D and A? What's the relationship between A and B? You look at all of those relationships, and you'll be very, very shocked as to the things that you'll be seeing. For example, people may not buy into your idea because even though they believe in your idea because it's good for their pockets, it's good for their economy, but for their social life, for the religion, the religion is against it, the religion kicks against it. So, for example, no matter how much you offer some people, because of their religion, they will not want to take that approach with you because it involves maybe something alcoholic or something alcoholic because they don't believe in alcohol. Yeah. Or because it involves like an animal that they don't eat. Or for some other religions, like Christians, for example, they wouldn't do anything with you if you fix it on a Sunday because on Sunday they have to be in church. So you guys are looking at it and say, okay, this is the economic this economic part connects to like the social aspect of it, but also not only the social aspect. How does it also connect to the natural environment? If they find themselves in a place whereby it rains almost every time, okay, they know the period whereby they cannot go out. If you fix an event on that, they'll tell you and say, oh no, this in this period it rains so much, we can't do this in this, or hey, this is the time, this is the best time to do this, and let's do it within this particular time. So you start looking at how these things kind of connect with each other and the kind of relationships that these things build. And then again, the kind of strategies that you begin to look at is, you look for patterns. Like I said, things are not isolated. Never believe that anything is isolated. There's nothing like in systems thinking, there's nothing like anything happened in isolation. There's something that caused it. There's also something that may have influenced it, or other things that enable us to that particular thing. So find this pattern and try to create a pattern within the chaos. Ignore all of the chaos and try to begin to connect the dots. Um, Also try to be, to have foresight to say, okay, if I do this, what may be the potential outcome? Or if I connect these two dots, what may be the potential outcome? Or if I connect this, what will be the potential outcome? Not to say that you're not going to make mistakes, you're not going to have any, issues, but those trial and error, or those having the foresight to know a possibility of what can happen when you connect that will save you a whole lot of trouble and a whole lot of stress. Um, Also, it's about you considering perspective, like I mentioned. Don't always see things from your own point of view. You might be the expert, your organization might be the savior for this community, but always ensure that you consult them. You consider the other perspective, you look at the different systems that these people exist in. How can it, how can you, even with your perspective, but how can you adapt into their own perspective as well to ensure that you're able to engage them, to ensure that you're able to have the maximum impact. But another one again is as well as, focus on the smaller details, but also keep your eye focused on the wider picture or the bigger picture. So streamline, the smaller details, but also look at them in the wider perspective. And then generally as well is, once you figure out all of these things, the most important thing is, you don't just theorize, you figured out you figured out the correlations, the connections, the relationship, the interconnectedness. Start taking those little small steps. Okay, A and B. So if I put A and B together, this might be the issue. So let's try A and B. Now we've tried A and B. So let's now connect A, B, and C to D. Or let's now try C and D. We've not tried C and D. Then let's connect C and D to A and B. So you keep taking those small steps, and then you keep getting bigger and bigger and expanding and expanding and expanding till you're able to create all of those connections and all of those relationship. Another thing about systems thinking, which is also one of the things that I'm working on at the moment with the young leaders I'm bringing on board, is how do you now also bring the different expertise and the different perspective that people have, and bring them together to form one key, to have a success story. So how do I work with someone who is a medical doctor and someone who is an engineer to find a solution to water or to health crisis in a particular community, because the engineer has nothing to do with health, but guess what, they've got ideas about building machines or building devices or building stuff. How do I bring the two of them together to work together to be able to achieve this particular thing? What are the other factors that affect the work that they will do so that so that there's no issues, they get the right success of what they want. So as I begin to round up, about systems thinking, one of the things that I want us to to recognize is, as we begin our journey, as we finalize the Starling fellowship, as we finalize the Starling fellowship, and as we begin to have take our ideas into action and do the things that we want to do, is first and foremost is you yourself, you yourself recognize your own bias, recognize that you don't know it all, recognize that you're not in silos, you need to work with other people. And the fact that you have to work with other people also have their own bias, other people also have their own way of thinking, they also have their own systems where they exist in. How do you read yourself of your bias or your mental models, or of your own, how do we put it, your own innate perspective or your own innate beliefs, to ensure that you're very open-minded to want to work with people and to want to accommodate their own systems and their own beliefs into getting the results that you want to achieve. So it's first and foremost battling your own mental biases as well, your mental models and your biases, and removing those biases from yourself and from your head, and being very open-minded and willing to work with I'm willing to work with people. And then two as well is, apply like some of the rules. If you notice about system thinking, a lot of things are consistent for that with, the relationship of how things work, the systems in which people, understanding the systems in which people exist, also understanding that, even though things are different or they have their own distinctions, they're all within a wider, they're all within a wider environment. So begin to look at, like, what are their distinctions? How do you build them or bring them into a system? What relationships do they have? And what are these very, very different perspectives? To organize yourself and to begin to have that mental picture of what your system is going to look like, or what your approach is going to look like. And then, like I said, small actions, begin to test some of the ideas that you have, begin to model them against reality and begin to implement them. And then the cycle continues again, and then you begin to fine tune this, and then you begin to get better, and you begin to expand the circles as it goes. And then you find out that you keep getting better and better and better by the day as you take all of these actions. And then, mind you, one of the things that I think one of the things I also need to iterate again is this: is that it's not doing the same thing over and over again, but doing the same thing at the end of the circle, reflecting on some of the things that you've done. What are the learnings? What are the things you got right? What are the relationships that worked, and the perspective or the systems that you meant that work, and the ones that didn't work, and improving on it and going around again and coming back to that same point and improving on it and expanding. And so, not like, despite of the mistake, you're not going to do the same thing over again. No, you keep getting the same result over and over again. But if you keep reflecting on, on your learnings and improving those learnings and reflecting again and improving again and reflecting again and improving again, that circle never stops. It keeps going and going and going and going and going. Like I tell people, I'm not a believer of, if it's not bad, don't fix it. No, I'm a believer of, even if it's working, I think it can get better. Because I used to give an example of cars. We had cars in those days. We have cats in those days that was strapped to horses, but the horses were working fine. It was good. They built roads that adapted to it. But some people came up and said, you know what, we think that we can build machines that will make the car work itself. So they built the machines that made car work itself, which is, Mercedes, which is one of the first cars. You know, and then it was, but it was one tire in front, two tires at the back, and stuff and stuff and stuff. But people come and say, you know what, we can make this car better to carry more people. And then cars have continued to evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve over time. So even though the technology has been perfected, now we're talking about electric cars. And after that, people are even talking about, like, cars that can fly, cars that can move on the ground, and things like that. So that's a result of always thinking and reflecting and learning and wanting to expand and bring in new ideas and connect the dots and see how things go. So finally, the project I talked about that I was working on, the last time, which is the New Now. So the New Now is a collective of young people that are managing across the world, where we're trying to identify people that can use systems thinking in the work that they do in the communities. We've identified the first 10 people. I'm actually sending them their congratulatory email on Monday. We've identified the first 10 people, that are going to work with us for the first 1 year, but it's a 3-year project. So I do hope that by the time we launch the application next year, some of you can apply as well, and we can review the application, and hopefully some of you can come on board the program. Um, you know, we want to start beginning to make people conscious as to how they think, as to what they do, as to implementing or imbibing systems thinking in the work that they do in the different communities that they work in, and actually training them and giving them the resources to be able to achieve that. So I'll also drop the link in the document that I'll send to Anu for you guys to have a look. And then also there are two books that I think that are very, very helpful for you all to read as well. It's Systems Thinking for Social Change by David Peter. So it's a very, very good book. I started reading it, long ago when I wanted to work on this project. It's a very, very interesting book. And then there's another one that is Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows. It's also a very good book for you. So these two books are very, very impressive for you to understand system thinking and how system thinking work, and how you can, put it in the work, and that you do. And I hope that, um, I think I've done, yeah. And I hope that with all of the things that you all have learned as part of the Starling Fellowship, and the different knowledge, both from my first session and this one, and from the other amazing facilitators, you all are able to go back into your drawing boards, put all of this together, look at the communities that you work in, or the causes that that you champion, and start thinking about how do you use all of this knowledge, all of these approaches into the systems where you find yourself in, and optimizing the systems where you find yourself in, to make your work better, but also to also ensure that the people that you work or the communities that you serve also get the best from you. So I hope that with this few point of mine, I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you about the importance of systems thinking, in everything that in the work that we do, but not just in the work that we do, but also in our lives as well. And at this point, I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, that was entirely new to me. I don't know if I have any weaknesses. Does anyone want to have, does anybody have any questions? You can raise your hand, or you can leave a comment. So yes, he would share the books he just mentioned so that we can refer to them. Olaide, I don't know, do you have a question?
Hello, am I to go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Daniel, thank you so much for tonight's presentation. Was quite an eye-opener. Shows us how exactly to go about social impact work that we do, not just assuming that we know it all, but to look at problem from different perspectives and get other views in arriving at a solution to whatever problem we have. Now, my question has to do with your last slide about the new now. I was thinking it's a group, not a book. And I was wondering if it has age limit because it talks about youth. So for those of us that are not so young, can we be part of that group? I'm assuming is a group, not a group. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other question as well? So I can probably I can take two questions together.
Okay, I only see, I don't see any other hand up. Does anybody else want to ask a question? So I think you can answer that for now till we have it.
Okay, so for the new now, for the new now, one thing, and so this is me just giving you some very key information, which is even though the application would say young people 30 and below, we actually do strongly consider people who are above 30 if they do a very impressive work. And why do I say that? We do have two people who are above 30 in this cohort, but they had very, very strong, impressive work that they were doing. We interviewed them. We were able to cross-check and confirm the work that that they were doing was really great and very, very solid, and their work spoke for them, and we were able to have them on board as part of the cohort to join the rest of the 8. So even though it says 30, yes, we do also consider those those are above 30, though we still expect it to be within the youth range, which is most times at a max of 35. But aside that as well, even though the application says 30 and below, I can assure you that we also consider people who are above 30 that have some very amazing work, that they're doing. And some good news, we do have a very amazing Nigerian lady who got into the program, and I'm also happy that we're able to get a Nigerian person involved in the program as well for the first year. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So do we have any questions? Okay, I see Olaide's hands are up. I think I also have a question, but Olaide, you have the floor.
All right. So I wanted to ask Daniel, what's the connection or what's the relationship between systems thinking and systems design? Thank you.
Okay. So design, thinking, how do I put it now? Thinking is a way where you look at that, your thought process, the way you approach things, and then design is more like you putting those thoughts to paper. Yeah. So maybe except you mean the difference between systems thinking and design thinking, because those ones are now two different things entirely. But just responding to you about the system thinking and system design, it's just more like what your thought process, how you put those thought process to paper, and then finally, how do you go about implementing them. I wouldn't create very, very, very strong distinctions between them. I'll probably just say, they're like parts of a whole, they're all together in the process. What your thought process, how you put them to paper, how you plan your action, how you go about implementing them.
All right. Thank you very much. All
Yeah.
right.
But not to confuse it with design thinking. So, because that's a whole new branch of conversation itself, away from systems thinking or systems design.
Oh, okay. 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 All right then. Thank you very much, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we have, I think Bukola has a question. Bukola, if you're here, you have the floor. Please ask your question.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much for the session, Mr. Daniel. Okay, so my first question is I didn't really understand the on the flow chart where you put about how to be a system thinker. The first step was metacognition. Then it was said, is he mental codes, then bias. So I don't really get that first, what you mean by actually the metacognition in respect to how to be a system thinker. So that's my first question. If you could just shed more light on that. Then second, there since I wanted to ask that, since you since you're affiliated with the One Young World, I've been seeing some applications about.
Okay, so it was the one that was
Can we mute the person's mic where the noise is coming from? Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you, Sir Daniel. So I wanted to ask also about the One Young World Leadership Conference that's supposed to hold in Germany, I think later in the year. I know that they are fully funded conference, and I've actually been interested in applying, and I've seen like there are different maybe scholarships to actually attend the conference. So I wanted to ask what you think about it or what you know about it, and how we can also apply, and maybe any advice regarding the conference. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Bukola. So, to your first question, metacognition is just about thinking. It's just like some very big grammar way of talking about thinking. Yeah. So it doesn't mean anything of its own. It's just like how do you think? What's your thinking process like? How do you control your thinking? What's your bias? So that's why if you look at some of the things I mentioned in that metacognition, I talk about like what are your mental models, what are your biases, how do you control your thinking, how do you control your bias? It doesn't influence what you do, so that you're also able to understand that people also have their own bias, and then you're also ensure that you're able to get rid of those biases that you have and be able to come to the table and explore the systems where the systems where you're in and the systems where this other person is in, and then how do you guys come together to see what are the relationship in those systems, and how can you harness those relationships to find the the best result, or to find the best approach towards making impact. It doesn't mean anything else. It's just like a very big grammar with talk about thinking. Pardon the use of the metacognition there. The second part about One Young World is I may not be able to give you full details because I'm a One Young World staff, and if I give you full details, it means that I'm disadvantaging other people, especially because this conversation is recorded. Yeah. But what I can say is I'm happy for you to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to give you like some more detail because I need to know as well what are the what are like what's your profile, what are you involved in, and I can tell you what's the best scholarship that you can apply for that you have a stronger chance of getting. But generally we want to see your story. What's your personal story? How does your personal story reflect on the work that you're doing in your organization and the impact that your organization is having, and how broad or wide is the impact? What are your impact numbers? What are the testimonials from the community? What are the other things that you've done? So we look out for potential. So we've had people whereby they've never been featured in major platforms, but they were able to tell their story, and from their story we could see the potential. We could see the potential from it as well. And so if I'm able to know what your story is, I can guide you as to how to tell your story. I can advise on which of the best one-on-one scholarship it is to apply for that gives you the best chance of being there, and how you can go about. So send me a message on LinkedIn, or I know can give you my email. You can send me an email as well. You can send me an email as well. I'll be happy to with some more detailed question, or send me an email with your profile, with your CV. I can look at it and I can say, okay, I think this is where best you fit, what scholarship that you can apply best for. But one thing I can tell you is that um don't feel very scared to apply for it. If you're doing some very great work, please put in. A lot of Nigerians get the scholarship, every year. Always happy to see them, and there's no harm in trying. Even if you don't get in, it's more like for you to, it's more, it's more for you to, how do I put it? Learn more and grow more, and know that you keep fine-tuning yourself for the next application, for the next application, for the next application, at that. And then you get to a point whereby, and I don't know if I still have time, I know, and if I probably should say this because it also applies to everyone here that is young. um I don't know, I mean, can I deviate a bit? Okay, yes, I can
Yes,
deviate a
please
bit.
go ahead.
So maybe giving you a personal story of mine, a personal story of mine before I got to this, but I think Miss Falakemi would know about it as well. Is that you know at the time, I put in lots of application, but after a while I figured out that it's not just about turning off loads of application every time, and then you keep getting, we call it breakfast. I don't know what the name they call it now, but then it's breakfast. We keep getting breakfast upon breakfast. So I said, you know what? Why not me streamline my application and focus on the ones that I know I have better chances for, if they're in line with my field. And then I started getting a bit more responses, and stuff, but I never get any opportunity. In fact, the first travel opportunity I got, I didn't apply for it. I was recommended for it because people were seeing my work and the things that I was doing. So I got recommended for it. And I can tell you for free that of all my travel around the world, until before I joined One Young World, of all my travel around the world, and I've probably been to around 23 countries, and some countries I've been there like 2, 3, 4 times. It's only two that I've applied for through like applications, that I was selected through those applications and I got into those applications. Other ones have been by people who know my work, reach out to me via social media, or people who know my work recommend me to, as speakers for things and things and things like that. So I would say continue building your profile, continue building your work, continue improving yourself, continue getting better, and continue being out there. Talk about your work on social media. Go to go to programs, be speakers at programs. When you speak there, take nice pictures, post about the pictures and about the work and the conversations you had in those places. Network with people. Trust me, they'll come through for you way more than having to apply for like 10, 15, 20 um applications as well. And every day, every time, if you work on yourself and keep getting better and investing so much in yourself, it would definitely pay off, especially if you're still like, under 26, it would definitely pay off. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, sir. I understand.
You're welcome, Bukolam. Do we have any other question?
So I just wanted to confirm, does anybody have any other question? I did not see any other hands raised, so I think that will be all. But I think I have a question, and it's around something you mentioned, something you spoke about, and I just wanted to clarify then, what's the importance of interventions, or are interventions or initiatives important if all the time we have to always look at the sustainable long-term picture, right? Because I also see that many people despise, oh, why are you just sharing rice? Oh, why are you just sharing clothes? Why are you doing the now thing? And why not just, but we also know that planning for the long-term sustainability can take quite a while. So what's the importance of the short-term intervention, and then how can we alongside doing those interventions, meeting people's needs every once in a while, because I'm aware that some of our fellows have those kinds of programs that are just short-term, short-based, relief-based and stuff. How can we then incorporate this long-term thinking while still doing short-term intervention, or do we just close up short-term and just focus on till we figure out how to do sustainable things? Yes, so I just wanted that.
So one thing I'll say is it can be a mix of both. Yeah, it can be a mix of both. While you're doing the short-term interventions, also start looking at what are the little things that I can do in this short term that will add up to the long term? Or think about what the long term is first, and then start asking yourself, so since this is a long term goal, this is what will create long term sustainable impact. What are the small bits at the moment that I can be doing that will be adding up to that long term goal? Yeah. So a lot of the times people want to do the fancy thing because it's fancy. You want to give food and snap pictures because it looks fancy. But the thing is, for how long do you want to keep giving out food when you can empower these people to build their own economic systems, to learn a trade, or you can get them a grant to do this. So one of the things I do in all of the projects that I've managed or that I've worked on, I do the fancy part where I bring them together to a workshop or to a forum and do ABC and XYZ with them. But I also go the extra mile by ensuring that I give them something to start off with. I give them a camera, I give them a laptop, I give them, I ensure that, I've had to have loads of conversations and back and forth with funders to say, there's no way you can get me to work on this project without ensuring that there's extra budgeting to give these people to ensure that they can go ahead and begin to implement those things. Imagine to see someone how to sew and you don't buy them a tailoring machine. Where are they going to get the money to get a tailoring machine to set off and to start off? Do you understand? Or teaching someone how to barb and then they don't have a shop or they don't have any money to buy equipment about barbing and stuff. So teaching them like the things that will benefit them in their economic sense in the long term and giving them the tools that will help establish them so that they can now fend for themselves and buy food for themselves and get food for themselves or raise the money to now build up the community. So because once a community starts doing well economically, automatically you will start seeing things happening and improving in that community because people will now want to live well. There's now more money in the community. With more money, people want to get a good life. So when we now begin to look at that, we'll now begin to say, okay, we're coming to this community to give out food. We're giving out plates of food and stuff. Yeah, like I mentioned the last time, working with the local communities, the local food book out there and stuff. That's one way. How do you also tell your funders and say, okay, can we give a scholarship to like 2 or 3 young people there? Can we set up a school in this community? Or can we be sending teachers to this community, community so that we can improve their education? Or can we find the brightest of the students there and, enroll them for university or enroll them for classes, extra classes to help them prepare for exams that can get them into university. With getting into the university, they get a better chance to a better education and a better shot at life. So these are like small, small actions that when you look at it, kind of add up to the long-term thinking. They may not be fanciful, but guess what? In the long term, they make very perfect impact. There's a very famous poet now in Nigeria going around the world, doing stuff around the world in Nigeria. Some of you will know him, he's young. I gave him one of the first platforms. He said, as a young poet, I organized an initiative and he won. And I said, no, you cannot just go off like that. We're going to promote the work that you do. And also take this laptop, do more, talk about more of what you do, be more open out there. And today, this guy is with governors, with UN heads across the world. He's traveling across the world. He's a very big figure now. Why? Do you think I'm not feeling proud about doing that? Imagine if we've just done of those fans, oh, this person as well, we does all of those fans and they let him go. Who will know him now or know his name now? And I've done that for a lot of people, within my sphere, and for a lot of projects that I still get people. I remember, even when I was an undergrad, so this is like, maybe for me, it's because it's my natural way of thinking. When I was an undergraduate, I organized this program in school for young people that for people that are in like primary and secondary schools to come learn like one thing or the other and stuff. I used to do that every time when I was in the uni, as a summer school and stuff. And then one day, I think it was my third year, my final year, I ran into this young girl and her mother. And then she comes to me and say, Uncle, Uncle, Uncle. I was like, hi, how you doing? Like, okay, I said, uncle, do you remember my daughter? I said, oh, yeah, 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 I remember you, but I've forgotten her name, but I remember her in one of my summer schools. She was like, uncle, see, I did these beads and ankles myself. Now I sell to my mom's friends in church. When our mom's people wants to do parties or stuff, she's the ones that do that, that dress them up or do their jewelries for them and stuff like that. She's already making her money at that very young age as well. And so many of them like that. And there's a lot of people run into me almost every time to let me know about like one project or the other that I've done, or that I've led that has impacted the work that they do. It's the hard work. It's not the fancy part of it. We don't get to come outside and post and say, oh, we gave 1 million people this, or we fed 10,000 people in this community and take those fancy pictures. No. But but guess what? My work keeps speaking for me till tomorrow. People still keep reaching out to me, wanting me to be involved in in high level engagement, in high level events. I was just posting on my WhatsApp today that this is just much, and God has been very, very faithful. A lot of speaking engagement confirmations and travel confirmations have already come in, and this is just much. But guess what? If you check my social media profile, just on very few occasions I talk about the work that I do. But even at that, even though I just try to use like the very keywords about the work I do, even with very minimal social media presence, people still come to reach out to me because of the recommendations from people that have worked with me, people that have benefited from the impacts and the projects that I've led. They keep going forward and recommending me to other people to want to work with me and things like that. So I understand the current need to want to do the fancy things of taking pictures, feeding 10,000 people, or doing this or doing that. Don't stop. Those are very, very important as well, because for someone that is hungry, what is their immediate need? Food. You give them food. But let's also have in mind, and I hope that this system thinking session would also keep that at the back of our mind. Let's have in mind, what can we do that would also ensure that these people in the long term, it provides for their sustainability in the long term. In the long term, these people can be better. In the long term, my organization is providing something sustainable, something long lasting, and something impactful for the future, for this community, or for these people that we serve, or for these people that we work with. So when we begin to have that kind of like mindset or approach towards the work that we do or the projects that we lead, we'll begin to see a lot of transformations and a lot of things that happen. And then you begin to also feel more fulfilled as a person as well. Because what? You're doing the work, you're seeing the impact, and then the circle begins to continue. There'll be some mistakes, yes, but you keep learning, and then you keep improving, and then you keep seeing the results, and you keep getting better and better and better as the day go by. I hope that I've been able to provide some context and respond effectively to that particular question, Annie.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So it's doing the long, tough work over the fast, fancy work. I'm sure that everybody, is going to go back with something different, especially a different way of seeing problems, thinking about problems, and then preferring solutions. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Thank you so, so much. This has been very insightful. Thank you for taking time out to answer questions and even for, the willingness to attend to questions even after this session. Thank you so much. I want to believe we do not have any more questions and that we are clear. Of course, we'll get the slides across to you so that you can sit in with it, you can look at it very well. And if you have questions, I'm also sure that Mr. Daniel is open to, answering them. And you can always, refer back to the recordings. I always recommend that you go back to the things that have been said and just do like a refresher. Maybe we'll even do a test exam. Don't mind me. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone. I shared the attendance. I hope that we have filled the attendance. Everybody's going to see their report cards in the coming future. So please take the attendance, and you would also take a post-session survey so that you help us know how this session has helped you and the next steps you'll be taking regarding systems thinking. So thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Once again, we sincerely appreciate your presence, your time, sharing your experience, your expertise, and your knowledge. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Please, can we thank Mr. Daniel before he leaves the call? Please thank him. I know we already did that in the comments, but please let's do it again. Let's unmute our mics and thank you.
Mr. Daniel, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Thank you
very
much,
Daniel. Thank him so that I will send the email. If not, I will not talk to him more. People are not thanking him. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Do have a lovely night's rest. So I think we can call it a night. Have a lovely night's rest and be good.
Thank you too.
Thank you, sir.